All right, ladies and gentlemen, our second speaker of the evening is a certified life coach and donor engagement manager with Stop Soldier Suicide. Please welcome to the stage, Amy Dozier.
Thank you so much for having me to share a little bit about my why. It comes from an incredibly vulnerable place in my life. This is my husband, John. We married in 2006, immediately started a family, and began talking about our future. We had really big plans. My plans were cut really, really short. January 9th, 2008, I got a knock on the door from 3 soldiers at Fort Bragg. John and 6 other men had been killed earlier in the day by an IED in Iraq. Our daughter had just turned 1. This is actually our first family photo. It's in Arlington National Cemetery because, to be really honest with you, I just assumed we'd have more time. But instead, we were wrapped up in the love and support of these amazing organizations in our community. And it is that support that really propelled me to want to give back to a community that had done so much for my family. So I went back to school, I got my master's degree, I continued my work with other families of the fallen, helping them find purpose in their pain. And then a couple of years ago, tragedy struck again. This is Nick. Nick served with my husband. Nick survived the blast that killed my husband. Nick also took his life. I will never forget that day. I was sitting at the park watching my daughter play on the jungle gym. But I knew in that moment, I had to be a part of something so much bigger than myself. I wanted to be a part of the conversation about mental health in the military. And I can tell you, it is no coincidence that I landed here at Stop Soldier Suicide. And tonight, I am so excited to share with you a project that we are working on. It's called the Blackbox Project. I hope you'll watch this video with me.
America is losing its warriors to suicide at a catastrophic rate. Most suicide prevention models don't address how to actually find those in crisis. We need insight into what the final days, hours, and minutes of crisis look like. Blackbox Project is the solution. Like the black box used to determine the cause of an aircraft crash, our team of data experts securely collects, processes, and analyzes devices of veterans who've died by suicide. We wrap our arms around lost survivors, and when the time is right, we invite them to learn how device donation can prevent future losses. By collecting data such as social media posts, text messages, media files, and browser history, our machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithms build models of pre-suicidal behavior and identify red flag patterns. These insights empower us to rapidly deploy our life-saving services before it's too late. Once the data retrieval is complete, we return devices with all hardware and data intact. No warrior's death should be in vain. You can save lives and honor your loved one's legacy by donating their devices to Blackbox Project. Learn more at stopsoldiersuicide.org/blackboxproject.
At Stop Soldier Suicide, we have the absolute privilege of walking alongside the grief journey of so many courageous families that have shared the stories and the devices of their loved ones that have died by suicide. My job, well, I just get to love on the families, and it's pretty awesome. This is the Hicks family. They were recently honored at the New York Giants game, where they were given the game ball. They were honoring their son and brother, McCoy. And these are a few of the other faces that I get to learn about each and every day from these families that just share their hearts with me. They share the stories. They share the lives of these heroes, because we know a hero remembered never dies. And I look at these, and I think, again, You always think you have more time. But when it comes to stuff like making the memories, taking care of yourself, or even saving a life, right now is that time. And that's why Stop Soldier Suicide is here. Thank you.
All right, it's Q&A time. If you have questions about her work with Stop Soldier Suicide, please raise your hand. We've got our first question here, front and center.
Good evening, Matt. How are you doing today? Thank you so much for that beautiful presentation. And actually, I'm a member of the United States Marine Corps, so this is a problem that so many people deal with that they're not willing to speak out about because they're sort of subconsciously taught that it's, as a man in the Marines, you don't talk about this. And this past weekend when I was in Lynchburg, Virginia, one of my really good friends, we found out that he took his life because he was fighting these battles that we were unaware of. So my question was, what can we do as service members to help bring these resources into the military? Because we're only offered PHOP, which is, right, like some counseling, but some very basic, not so in-depth training. It's not good counseling. It's
Sure.
Here, this is free, like we'll give you some time. So what can we sort of do to provide more help within the military?
Sure. Thank you for that question. Thank you for your service. And I'm deeply, deeply sorry for your loss recently, truly. I have a wonderful colleague, Chuck Eastman, who is here that can probably answer your question a little bit better about the ways that you can become involved, the ways that we can help you, your battle buddies, your network. So I welcome Chuck. Come on up.
This is a little unexpected, but great question. I served in the Army for 20 years, so I understand that there's an existing problem within DoD. One of those big problems is the stigma associated with going after help. Everyone's worried about losing flight status or losing security clearance or losing access to the arms room. So for active duty, it's a unique challenge, but upstream intervention is even more important on active duty. So as a veteran, you know, if I had a moment of crisis and I ended up in an emergency department and I didn't show up to work that next day, sure, my boss would probably yell at me, but that's about it. Active duty, you don't show up to work the next day, it becomes a waterfall effect of more bad stuff. So there's UCMJ effects, so Uniform Code of Military Justice. So you start getting in trouble, then you start coping with that, and then it starts rippling. So I think, from my perspective, to address it at active duty, it needs to be a change in the narrative of, you know, it's okay to be okay, and it's okay to seek help. And you can't hold somebody against that for either career or access to whatever, or just to do their job. So I don't know if that helps answer your question.
All right, any other questions for our tag team up here? You can raise your hand.
We can also get you some website information and some other information if you'd like it afterwards.
All right, got another question here from the aisle.
Hello, thank you for your work in particular. And I have a adopted son that was in the Navy, and he had a soldier that also just jumped ship and was gone. They have never found him. So do you work with the military in any way, or is this just with the families that have experienced this tragedy and loss? Or have your organization tried to work with the various service agencies that,
Sure.
you know?
Sure. So personally, I only work with the families who have donated a device to our Blackbox Project. I work with those families to offer grief support. So my personal journey is just working with the families. As an organization, You know, to kind of speak to Chuck's point, you know, there seems to be a lot of undue penalty that comes with asking for help. So we don't want to report that. We want to make sure that people feel safe coming to us, sharing their stories and their lives with us. So it's my understanding that we do not work with other agencies. We have a wonderful wellness coordination team that does intake, state-of-the-art assessments, and a wonderful program to work with these men and women, active duty or veteran, regardless of discharge status. And there is no reporting because we understand that sometimes you just need a place to go set your stuff down. And that's what we're here for. We're here to just carry your stuff with you.
All right, our last question will be coming here from the other side of the aisle.
So, from that video that you showed, do I understand correctly that you're collecting electronic data from soldiers who have committed suicide to try to identify patterns of behavior and language or whatever, and from that you're going to develop some sort of logarithm to scan the net and then perhaps pinpoint who is the likely next person to do this?
Yes.
So I'm trying to think of then what happens. Let's say you do this. Now, okay, for example, my son is a Navy doctor in Japan, and
Thank you.
He mentioned that he just had to deal with a suicide over there. So I'm thinking, so let's say you're scanning the web and you find what you think might be a danger signal. Where do you go with that? Do you go to the commander of that unit? Do you go to the hospital where it's assigned to that unit, or how do you, what is the next step once you identify a dangerous situation or result from this logarithm?
Sure. So, as I said before, we will not report because we understand that there are some penalties that come with reporting, and we don't want to do that. So with this particular program, and there are people that are paid to do way bigger work than I could ever do. It's so far above my head, but from my understanding, kind of from where I sit, they can extract this data. They can use things like computational linguistics and AI and machine learning to find the trends over time. And with those trends, what we can do is kind of build a behavior model to kind of figure out what does this digital footprint look like? Where can we go? And then, if our tech people aren't great enough, we've got this incredible marketing team that, again, they're unicorns. They will somehow strategically market our services to go to where our most at-risk population is and hopefully get to them before it's too late. That is my very layperson idea of how this goes, but I do have Tina back here who could probably share with you a little bit more about what that looks like on that side. But from where I sit, yes, we can use the data, we can build behavior models, and we can try to find the people before it's too late.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, big hand for Amy Dozier.